It's like all of us are wounded, whether we feel like we've gone through extreme trauma or we feel like, oh, I shouldn't have anything. No, all of us have wounding in our life, characteristics of the voice of the Lord, and these are the characteristics of the voice of the enemy, then we can recognize it. Still, the idea of taking thoughts captive. I know that's not true. Get out of here. This is the truth, right? But I would say kind of what you said, if it keeps coming and it's kind of like a repetitive thing, then we know, okay, that's something deeper.
Welcome guys back to the 1002 podcast. I'm very excited because we have a very special guest here today, Grace from Orlando. Thank you, Grace, for coming here. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's our pleasure that you came all the way here. Grace is here right now in our LMD week and she teaches about inner healing. But maybe you just introduce yourself really quick and say a bit about what's on your heart. Like this episode is about inner healing and get healed in the first place, to then be able to really help others to walk through this process of healing. So
So the idea is that as missionaries we're called to bring healing to the nations, but if we are not healed ourselves, then we don't have authority to bring that to the nations. So we need to walk through this healing, find the places where we're wounded, and let God bring his healing and his truth so that then we have authority to bring the nations into healing as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome. And maybe just quick about yourself, who are you? Maybe quick your story, in YWAM, how you came in and how did you at the end actually, how did you got this passion for the topic of counseling and helping people to be healed innerly.
So I actually grew up as a missionary kid in YWAM in Spain. My parents have been there for 50 years, and so I've always known the Lord. I've always had the privilege of having a relationship with him and being able to understand how to hear his voice and listen to his guidance. And so when I was 15, I had a deep encounter with the Lord where I really felt him call me to missions. And so I ended up going to Orlando and joining staff there. And I've done many things in my years there, almost 20 years of being there. I've worked with youth ministries, I've worked with children's ministries. My husband and I have done a lot of discipleship and training. But I came to a place in my life. We have 5 kids, and so I've had lots of changes of what does it look like to be in missions with children, and how does that change my involvement? And so through that came to a point where I was just trying to figure out, okay, now that I can't necessarily be as full-time as I was, what can I do ministry-wise, and what can I give? And we had someone come to our base who brought this inner healing process that I'm teaching about this week. And as I was working and discipling students, I got to sit in on some of their sessions and just see just the impact that it made and just the way the process worked. And so I really felt God calling me to learn this process and to be able to be a part of the team that did it. So we have a training school that we run where you can learn how to do this as a ministry. And so, my plan was, I'm going to come in, I'm going to help people, and I'm going to, bring them this healing. And little did I know that I actually needed this. And so that's something that I've really learned. It's all of us are wounded, whether we feel like we've gone through extreme trauma or we feel like we've had, a pretty great life. It's I shouldn't have anything. No, all of us have wounding in our life. And it's not about the size of the wound or how big the wound was, but it's really how much you've allowed the lie that the enemy plants in your heart from it to become a part of your life. And so that's how I came to be a part of it, and it's just been amazing to see the fruit that comes from it when we can understand the principles and be really willing to be honest about what's in our life and bring it before the Lord and then let him do the ministry. And it's just amazing because it's not anything that I do. It's literally I just help bring them before the Lord and then he gets to do the work. And to be honest, it's just such a privilege because I get to know the Lord in a deeper way than I ever could when I see how he ministers to other people, and I get to see his character and just his the personal way, right? Because I can say, here's the truth and this is what the Bible says, but he can speak directly to their heart exactly what they need and things that I would never know that they need to hear. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, it's like counseling is such an important topic, you know, and I think such a topic is so underrated by many people. And like I, for example, I'm not that deep into counseling, but I understand more and more the importance of counseling and how it actually is one of the how it builds one of the foundations to really be effective in ministry and not just run in ministry for a bit of time, but actually to be healthy and to run healthy for many years. And that's where counseling really comes in, right?
Yeah. So one thing though about this is we're not actually counseling. It's a prayer ministry. So it's actually a very clear prayer process that anybody can learn. And the hope is that it's something you could learn and then you can apply to your life. So that, in the beginning, I'm helping walk people through it, but then they can take these principles and it can be something they do with the Lord anytime that something is brought up. So.
But would you say it is like it is part of counseling? It is part of counsel to someone's heart, or?
Yeah, I would say it's similar to counseling. Okay. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you still still say it's different.
It is a little bit different.
How is it? How do you guys do it? What is the way? How is the way? Take us a bit through this process. How you do it when you say prayer process? How does this look like?
Yeah. So maybe if I explain a little bit about how wounding happens, and then I can explain how this process goes. So basically the idea is that people in the world wound us. And so this can happen very, very early in our lives. And so something happens that creates this wound in our heart. And then that leaves an open space. It's like, it's like as if your heart was a fertile ground. Then now there's a space where there's a place for something to get planted. When the wounding happens, it kind of leaves this fresh, open place, right? And so the enemy likes to take advantage of that, and he wants to plant seeds of lies in our hearts. And so then if we take those and we take them on and we kind of take them on as truth, then they'll grow roots. And then from that, what happens is that in our flesh, we try to find ways to like cover up or take away the pain of the lie or prove that it's not true or hide that it's there. And this is all really subconscious. It's not something we're even aware. It's hidden and we don't see it. But then from that, we end up having fruit in our life that grows. That ends up being like negative emotions, like triggers, right? Or so we get triggered and we have all this negative emotions, or then we end up having like behaviors where we try to like cover the pain. So like addiction and just ways that we try to not feel that, right? To mask it. And so an example would be, let's say, your parents got divorced and your father left, right? Well, that creates a wound, right? That's painful and it happened and it's real. But then the lie the enemy might come plant might be something like you're unwanted, right? And so then you take that on and you end up living in a way where you're really living in this place of being unwanted or unloved. And so then what you do is that you grow this vine in your life of, like, I'm going to prove that I'm wanted, or, so let's say then that would create perfection in your life, right? And you say, I have to be perfect so that I can prove that I'm good enough, right? Or, there's many different ways that might look. Everyone has different things they do, but it's like, then when you're not perfect, the enemy is like, see? It's true. You are unwanted. You aren't good enough. Whatever the lie, it could be any lie that comes from that. And then it's the pain of, I'm not good enough. And this anxiety of how I'm never going to be good enough. How can I be good enough? And then you try to medicate that, right? So it could be many different ways that we do it. It could be something simple like binge watching Netflix, right? That keeps me distracted. Or it could get extreme. And it could be, extreme, but addiction. So now I turn to alcohol because that numbs the pain, and then I become dependent on it, right? So there's just these cycles of these things. And so one thing that I've noticed a lot in the world and even in Christian circles is that we kind of deal with the fruit, right? And we're like, ask the Lord for peace. And it's like, he wants you to have peace, but you're not dealing with why that's even there in the first place. Or, oh, you're addicted? Okay, well, let's do these 12 steps to like manage your addiction. Instead of let's go deeper and figure out why that's even there in the first place. And so that's a place where I see this prayer process is kind of like a deeper level of, okay, we need to not deal with the fruit. We need to go down and deal with the roots and the seeds and what actually first happened. So it's like, where was the wounding? So we got to find where's the memory of the place where this first planted in our lives, and then what's the lie? Because God's gonna answer our prayers as specific as we get, right? So if we're just like, give me peace, well, he'll give us peace. But if I ask the right question, I say, hey, what is it that I'm believing and where is it coming from? He'll show me, and then we can say, okay, what's the truth? Because again, it's going to be lies and things that it's like intellectually we know the truth. You know, I know that I'm not unwanted because the Bible says that God loves me. I know it's not true that I'm not good enough because the Lord knit me together in my mother's womb and he created me, right? And yet my feelings say it's true. And it's because we have this double-mindedness, this place where we believe something intellectually, but then we believe something different in our hearts. So when we come before the Lord and let him uncover what's the lie and where is it coming from and ask him for truth, that's when he can make those line up. But he's the only one that can do it. So if we try to do it as, you know, fellow brothers or brothers and sisters in Christ, and we tell each other the truth, this is what the Bible says, and like let's meditate on it, and that's good, but that's not going to change anything. Or if it's a counselor or a therapist that's saying, well, this is the truth, and you can understand it intellectually, but that's not going to change it, because the only one who can change what's in our hearts is God, because he's the one that was there. He was there when that happened. He's been there the whole time. And so he can give us the truth and his perspective. So that's where I would say this is a little bit different.
You just said, I think it's interesting, because you just said that many people ask God for peace and he gives them peace. But that won't change anything, because people don't ask God to actually reveal to them what is the root of, for the reason that they don't have peace, for example. So would you say that many people actually won't experience their healing unless they actually come to God and ask him specifically? Like God will not just come and like reveal everything unless we come to him in the first place and ask him more?
I think that's the most effective way and the fastest way. But God's good, and he always wants to bring us healing and revelation. And so he will do it other ways. It just might take longer because we're not ready. We're not aware. When we're aware, then that opens up the door for him to do it more and quicker, right? But I believe that, you know, he's faithful, and he's bringing us in this place of renewal and of having our lives changed. And so he's doing the work, but we resist. We might not know that we're resisting, but we resist, right? And so, but once we know this and we're ready, we position ourselves. So sometimes we call this also, another way we call it is like positioning prayer. Okay, God, I'm ready. Show me. Because it's hard. It's hard to look at those difficult things that happen. It's hard to really be honest about what you feel. And then sometimes it's like become so much a part of you that sometimes you could even be like afraid to like let him change it, because you're like, I don't know what life would look like without this, because it's been a part of me for so long. But when we're ready and we say, okay, here I am, you know, search my heart, oh God, here I am, then he's able to do so much more. Because if you think, I think of it as like heart surgery, right? That's what he's doing. He's taking out the bad things and, you know, restoring it. But if we're struggling, it makes it hard for him to do it, right?
It's true, yeah.
But when we submit
still,
and we say, okay, here I am, you know, then he's able to do it. So I think he'll still do it. He's faithful, but it'll take a lot longer. And if we're not willing, he can't, because he doesn't force us, you know. When we're willing, then he can do so much more.
So really, just asking God more and more regularly, God, what is the root for my behaviors? Maybe not even knowing that something, you know, is wrong because you feel good right now, but still asking God regularly, God, just show me something, reveal something to me. And that really opens the door for just faster and more effective healing.
Yes. Yeah. For sure.
You mentioned earlier on that you have this prayer step process. Can you is there a way to break it down and you know, give us some practical stuff, how we can do this for ourselves, how we can apply it?
Yep. So there's many different ways. There's lots of different ministries that use this style. And so the one that I've found that's the simplest way to help people remember is called real prayer. Okay. And so each letter stands for a part of the process. So right, R is remember. So what we are starting first is, where did this come from? What's the memory? So it's going to be hard for us to figure it out and try to find it, again, because then we'll get so intellectual. So the best way to do it is just say, okay, Lord, here's what's happening. Here's what I'm feeling. Here are the behaviors I'm having. Where is this coming from? Would you show me? And let him bring to your heart and your mind the memory where this is coming from, right? Because there's a place that originated. And then maybe there's more memories after that have kind of pushed the same belief and kind of jammed it in there. But really, where's the originating place? So remember, that's the first step. Then we have E, and E actually has two parts. So it would be, I can't remember the order now, but it would basically be explore. So now I have the memory come to mind. I'm going to explore it a little bit, right? And it's going to be an unpleasant memory, right? You don't want to look at it. We're kind of looking, okay, what does it make me feel? What am I kind of sensing that I'm believing from this? And then having also the Lord examine our heart. So examining and saying, okay, now Lord, you show me as well. So it's kind of it's both. We're a part of it too. What am I feeling? What am I sensing? And Lord, would you reveal the specific lie, right? What feels true? And we're going to know, again, we know it's not true, but we have to be really honest with our emotions and say, does it feel true? Does it feel true that I'm, not good enough? We have to be really honest and say, okay, yeah, actually it does, right? So once we've done that, then we have, so it's real, so REA. Then we have ask. Now we have to ask. We've figured out where it's coming from. We figured out what the lie is. Now we ask the Lord, would you reveal the truth? Okay, and we wait for him to tell us the truth. And there's many ways that he can do that. He might give us words. He might give us a picture. He might remind us of a Bible verse. He might give us a new perspective. He might show us the memory and be like, this is where I was and this is what was actually happening. And, there's many different ways that he might do that. But we let him minister the truth to us because he has the authority that we don't have ourselves, right? And then after that, L is just listen, right? So we have to be open to listening to him. And then, it seems really simple. There are things that come up sometimes that make it hard for us to hear. And it's just beliefs that we have that are I kind of mentioned it before. Ooh, if I really hear him, then that means I have to change my behavior. Ooh, I like the behavior. I don't want to stop drinking, or I don't want to stop feeling comfortable, or whatever. There's these blocks that kind of come up. So in that, we kind of have to navigate those sometimes. I'm listening, but I'm having a hard time listening. So then what is keeping me from really hearing you, Lord? And so that's real, right? And then this isn't a part of the acrostic, but then at the end, the way that we can test it is we look back at those beliefs. Does it still feel true? And sometimes after God speaks, it's a change that happens right away. It's whoa, a minute ago it felt true and now it doesn't. It's crazy. Sometimes it's actually, yeah, it does still feel true. And that just means we got to go back to the Lord and get some more truth from him, because there's a part of us that's still well, what about this? And what about that? And so then we just keep going back to him until we're able to look back at the belief and say, really fully, honestly say, it doesn't feel true anymore. And so that's kind of that prayer process.
And everyone can just apply it and really find freedom through that, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think there's times where it's easy to do it on our own. There's times where we might get a little bit stuck because of these places I've talked about, this resistance. So if you're able to have someone who knows the process help you walk you through it at those times, even me, I've been doing this for 5 years. There's times where I can do it with the Lord on my own, and then there's times where I just get stuck because there's too much. I get distracted. My flesh finds all these ways to So then I'll just get one of my friends that knows the process and say, okay, will you help walk me through it? Because I get too stuck. So it's both. But the hope is, and the idea is, that yes, you should be able to apply it on your own. But I think that's also part of just the way that God's created us. He's created us for community. He hasn't created us to do it alone. So needing to have someone else be with us is actually sometimes a really good thing, because then they're going to help, celebrate it, and they're going to help hold us accountable, and they're going to help remind us when, the enemy tries to be oh, did that really happen? Yeah, it did. So having another person there is actually sometimes really helpful. Mm-hmm.
For people who are now maybe listening and are okay, that's good, this prayer process sounds awesome, but they maybe don't know in their own life, maybe where they can start, where they should look. what would you say are some common, especially right now in this, like generation, and for missionaries who are maybe just like new in the field, but also for those who are maybe like longer in ministry, what are some common roots, some common wounds you experienced and you saw over the last years that people just struggle with so many times? What would you say is that?
I would say one of the top lies that I find people believe is the example I just gave, that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
That's literally one of the top ones. And I think it's interesting because I feel like that's actually kind of like the original lie that Satan came in with Eve, because he was, here's the fruit. Well, no, you won't die, right? God just knows that if you eat it, you're gonna know what he knows. And it was this idea of like, oh, the way that he's created me and the way that I am isn't good enough. I need more.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of one of the top ones I see. I'm not good enough. Maybe like I'm alone, where it's this idea of like, God abandoned me. I'm unworthy. Those are kind of really top ones. Yeah, and the thing is, it's like, I feel like it's such a strategy of the enemy, because then even as missionaries, it makes it easy for us to, maybe we're not stuck in the addiction and we're not stuck in these things, but guess what we're stuck in? We're stuck in our work and in serving. And it's like, it's a good thing, right? But when we're doing it to prove something, I am good enough, then we're not doing it with the right heart or the right motive. And then it doesn't mean that people won't be affected. They'll still be affected. But then we're not getting as close to the Father. The whole point isn't like pain management or just feeling better. That's the result that comes from it. But it's really what's keeping me distant from the Lord, and what's a block between me and him and me living fully in who he created me to be. So, yeah.
What are some things that people distract themselves with? So what are some distractions? When you say, there's so many things that keep us busy of realizing what is actually going on in our heart. What are these things? Because I'm thinking, when I look in my life, like, some things are obvious, like some habits are sinful, like drinking or partying, like that's wrong. But then there are other times where I, for example, realized, because of that pain, I actually jumped like so deep in ministry and just tried to do so much for God. Yeah. But it also was just another way of covering up and trying not to deal with this pain. So what are some ways how people can be distracted and should be more aware of, hey, that this also could be even if it sounds good, it still can be a distraction?
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of just said it, but literally anything that we do to try to cover up the pain is that. And so, like you said, it could be simple things like addiction, porn, masturbation, cutting, like things like that are harmful, that are obvious. But then we can come to the other side and, throwing ourselves into worship. It's a good thing, but if we're doing it to mask the pain, then it's our behavior that's like covering it up. I'm going to memorize more scripture. Oh, that's a great thing, and we're supposed to do it, and we're told to. But when we're doing it, try to mask the pain, then it's our, what I would call solution behavior, right? It's our coping mechanism, right? So anything like that. So working out at the gym. I already said, like binging Netflix, giving more at church, giving more of my time to serve, like all of those things are all good. Well, binging Netflix, maybe not, they're not bad things, but if they're used as distractions, then they are. So I think the main thing to do is just, again, take an honest assessment and say, what are my motives behind what I'm doing? And then that will reveal, is it something genuine that I'm just doing because I love the Lord and I want to serve him and I love his people and I want to serve them? Or I want to worship because I just want to, love him in that way? Or is my motive, to hide this thing or cover it or make myself feel better?
How would you say, because what comes in mind right now, you talked about the lies of the enemy, like you're not good enough, and the enemy will never stop throwing lies on you to really try to break you. Would you say there is a difference between getting those lies and trying to, or resisting, because it is a lie, and the other side of these lies come, and there's actually something deeper behind, and you should, you know, you shouldn't give them attention, but you should take them and say, God, I feel there's something, you know what I mean? Like, what is this, how can people distinguish this difference between just resisting because, you know, it's just a lie, and actually taking it, realizing maybe it comes so often because there's actually something deeper.
Yeah, I think part of it might be like stages of development, right? So when we're young and we're in this impressionable state and we don't know yet, we haven't learned to discern the voice of the Lord has come in at a younger age. When we're older and we've learned this and we know the Lord and we know, you know, we learn about hearing his voice, and it's like, okay, these are the characteristics of the voice of the Lord and these are the characteristics of the voice of the enemy, then we can recognize it more, right? So I know that's the enemy's voice. Yeah. Right? And so there is still the idea of taking thoughts captive, right? And so like you're saying, resisting. I know that's not true. Get out of here. This is the truth, right? But I would say kind of what you said, if it keeps coming and it's kind of like a repetitive thing, then we know, okay, that's something deeper. It's something where I'm saying go away and here's the truth, and that's not actually taking care of the problem because it keeps coming back up. Yeah. Then I would say, well, that's obviously a place where now we need to go deeper. And, you know, the easiest thing too is just ask the Lord. Lord, how should I deal with this? Is it enough if I'm just resisting, or is there more to it? Because he's the one that knows. Would you show me, is there more to this or not?
Of course, yeah. At the end, you know, if you lack wisdom, go back to God, ask him, he will give it to you, and he will give you discernment over your situations, right? That's good, yeah. What are some, or just what happens when people don't take care of their wounds and go all in the ministry, and maybe it flows, maybe it grows, you know, maybe everything is good, but what are some dangers of running in ministry while actually having those deep wounds and not healing them?
Well, I don't know if this is a phrase that you guys have heard before, but this idea of hurt people will hurt people. Yeah. So, you know, if we're hurt and we're not dealing with it and we're not getting healing, we're going to end up hurting people. So, you know, especially once we get into leadership, then now we have a bigger responsibility to make sure that we're dealing with our stuff so that we're not now adding to that pain and adding to those wounds in other people. Yeah, I would say some of the ways it's going to affect us is in relationship and in the way that we treat people. But another way it's going to be is like, man, we can have all this amazing ministry and see people come to know the Lord and see people healed and all this, but then we just still have this inner anguish inside of us of like, you know, I'm being overworked and, you know, burning out. So one big way would be not ending up being in ministry for long because we burn out and then we end up leaving. But if it's something that could be preventable if we would look inside and let God heal. Some other ways that I know I've seen it is, again, you get to this place of, I've done all these things for the Lord and I haven't dealt with my stuff. Now I even see people leave the faith. Not only leave ministry, but leave ministry and leave the faith. And now come to this place where it's like, I don't even want God in my life at all. And it's so heartbreaking because it's like, but what about all these times where you've worshiped him and all these times where you've told people about him? Like, was that not real? And I think it was, but it's because it was an intellectual and it never really reached their heart. Yeah, and then I think it can come out in places of having anxiety, feeling depression, being lonely, and just not living the full life that God has for us. And yeah, again, we can't bring people to where we haven't been. So even if we're doing all these great things for the Lord, you know, it's gonna be more effective when we can say, hey, come to this life of freedom that I've experienced. Not come to this life of freedom that I'm trying to experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. Actually, really going deep into the freedom that Jesus actually paid for at the cross and really receiving it, and not just, you know, like kind of like surfing on it, enjoying, you know, the wave as long as it's high, but then when it starts to go down, you actually feel like burnout, depressed, and all those things that you don't have to feel, because that's not what God wants for you, but you feel it because you didn't deal with it in the first place, and now all the things that piled up underground that you didn't even realize are now coming up, and then it's like hits you like a wall or so, and you're like, whoa, where's that coming from?
Yeah. And I think part of it is that why it's so common is that people just don't know, right? Another part of the deception of the enemy, I think, is to normalize it, right? I think our society normalizes it so much, and even in Christian circles, it's like, oh, my anxiety, like I have it,
Burned out again,
right,
down
like,
it, worked too much,
I'm
was
triggered.
too busy in
like,
ministry.
Even this, I'm triggered. Oh, that's so triggering. And then we just kind of make it like a light of it. But it's like, in the Bible, there's more than 100 times that Jesus talks about, do not be afraid, be anxious for nothing, fear not, be courageous, right? And he's not going to tell us to do something that's not possible, right? So if he's saying it's possible to not fear and to not have anxiety, then what we should do is when that's coming up, we should be like, oh, this isn't what I'm supposed to be feeling. This isn't normal. So now what am I going to do about it? I'm not going to medicate it. I'm going to dig down deep and ask the Lord, where's this coming from?
Right, yeah. And the Bible is also, I think it's Philippians, Paul writes that there's no test and nothing that happens in our life will be too big for us, will be too hard to overcome and too hard to actually go through. And I also think with that, like there will be nothing that is in our heart that will be too big to actually to be dealt with, right? To actually go deep into it. I think what you said, like normalizing it, like I think that's so like, like conviction right in my heart, like and I'm very aware that there are probably still quite a few areas in my life where I like have to like go through, but you said like we normalize it so much that we don't even realize it, and then we walk with it like through our whole life. And I like you told a story yesterday of you like where God revealed something in the car. Maybe you can share that story because I think it's very relatable with a lot of people, and many people maybe see themselves in there as well.
Yeah, so this is the story of one of the most impactful healing times I've had with the Lord. And it was when I was doing my training school to learn this process. And it seems so silly, but I said I had 5 kids, and so this day I was supposed to bring juice to my daughter's school for a party that she was having, and I dropped her off at school and then was going back home and realized I forgot the juice. And so I actually had enough time to go back home, grab it, take it to school, got it there in time, everything was fine. But as I was driving back, I was just feeling this like need to do something, it's like, oh, I gotta fix it, I gotta do something, like. And I realized, because I was learning this, I'm like, wait a second, that's anxiety. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't what God wants for me, so I'm going to deal with it, right? And I never would have known to do that in the past, because again, this was something that was just normal in my life, and I didn't even think, oh, it's, it wasn't an anxiety attack, but it was an anxiety of this anxious need to like fix something. And it had just been so normal in my life. I never realized it until I was learning this process, and now I'm like, oh, that's what that is. So I went through the process, and so this is a concept that might be hard for people to understand, but it came to this place of remembering when my mom was pregnant with me. So I didn't necessarily have an actual memory of being in her womb, but my parents had kind of told me a little bit about when they got pregnant with me and what was going on, and I knew that it was something that kind of just really they weren't expecting, and it really changed plans for their life. So even though it wasn't like a full memory that I was like reliving, it was still, God brought me to this place of remembering when I was in my mother's womb. And he revealed to me that the lie that I came to believe was that I'm useless. Because I could feel, we hear about this, that like when babies are in their mother's womb, they can feel their mother's emotions, they can sense kind of things that are going on. And so I could feel like what my mom, like this, oh, what are we gonna do, how is this gonna change things, like all this turmoil, and I couldn't do anything about it because I was just a little baby that was being formed in her womb, and so I came to believe that I was useless. And so that's why all throughout my life, okay, this was only like 5 years ago, okay, so my whole life I've been living with this lie. And so anytime I would mess anything up or not do something correctly, that would get hit again, and it'd be like, see, you are useless. And so something as little as not bringing the juice on time was that trigger and hit that place that normally I would have just ignored, but because I was understanding this truth, I went to look for it. And this is literally one of the deepest places that God's brought healing in my life. Because once he spoke to me, this is all he said. He said, I did not create you to be useful, so you don't need to be. And that changed everything. In that moment, literally driving in the car, I suddenly had peace. Like that feeling of having to fix it was gone. But the coolest part about it was that like a few weeks later, I did something where I messed something up in the schedule, and it was, people were waiting on me and depending on me, and I just suddenly realized, wait a minute, like I'm at peace. I'm not feeling this anxiety that I always felt every time I messed something up. And even now, like I play keys for our worship team and I mess up, And in the past, that would have stuck with me almost all day. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Like, I need to get better. Like, I shouldn't even be on the worship team. Like, all these things. And even now, it'll happen in the middle of a worship set, and I'll like literally just grin to myself because I'll be like, wow, God, like your faithfulness of like, this is not like, obviously, I want to do better and I don't want to do it, but I'm not feeling affected by it. And so like the faithfulness of when he brings that healing, that it has fruit in our life. Just like the lies have fruit in our life, now his healing has fruit, and this peace that I'm not having to try and, God, give me it. Like I have it. I just naturally have it because that's the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of having the truth in our lives.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. I really I think like for me personally, like I just see parallels to my life. And you mentioned something, and I think we don't have the time now to like go into it, but you mentioned, and I think that can be very new for maybe some people. You mentioned that the Holy Spirit brought you back to this memory before you were even born. Maybe just like quick for people who may never heard that, like how does that like how does this goes together? Why has this an impact on who I am today when I wasn't even born there? Like how can that happen?
Yeah, well, from the moment we're conceived, like we are already like who we are, right? We are already the same spirit and the same soul, and this, obviously my body is developed, but the same me that was in my mother's womb is the same me today. Now, when we're so little, we don't have words, we don't understand the concepts of emotions, we don't have all that, but we still receive impressions and we still get affected by things. And so it's weird to be like, oh, how could I even remember that? Or how could I know? But it's like, it was the same me. I was just really, really little and I wasn't fully developed, but it's still the same me. And I think, it's the enemy doesn't want to wait. He doesn't wait till we're ready. He's like, I'm going to start from the beginning, and so he'll try to attack us from the very, very beginning and take any opportunity to bring in these lies. So I know it is a weird concept, but it's like, it's the same you. And
that's just how things work, and if we don't look into it, then we miss out probably. That's good. Thanks. Okay, to wrap up, what is like few practical things that people can do now, those who hear it, to start to discover something in their heart, start to really get deep with Jesus? What is some practical things people can do?
Well, I think just becoming more aware and learning more. So some of the places I've learned this from is Transformation Prayer Ministry by Ed Smith. You can find all of his content online for free.
On YouTube and so?
He has some YouTube stuff. He has like a super thick book. But yeah, so some stuff on YouTube, some stuff. And then one that's kind of really brought it to more simple terms, so Ed Smith was a counselor, and so he has lots of like really dense, and it's really good, but it's like really in depth. But another one that kind of brought this a little more simple, and it's kind of this real prayer and this idea of like the wounds and the fruit. I got that from a book called Understanding the Wounded Heart by Marcus Warner. And so like if you're wanting to like get more, because I can only give you the surface level, right? So I would say learning more about it. And then just really being aware. So now that you know, because it's just so natural for us to try and push down our negative emotions, don't do that. Come before the Lord and say, okay, this is what's happening. Show me what's going on. And just being more aware and just asking the Lord, give me more of an awareness. Because again, we get so used to it that we don't even think about it. But Lord, give me an awareness. And when these things come up, I want to come to you with them. That would be a starting point, I would say.
Awesome. That's good, man. That's good. I hope you guys, you could take something up, because, we want to run for Jesus. We want to reach, everyone. We want to reach the unreached. We want to go to the ends and the alls and the everys, and, we want to reach people, and we want to go all in. But we also want to do it healthy, right? We want to not just run and sprint, but we want to actually, like run this marathon, until the end. And it can be exhausting, and getting, wounded, or like discovering wounds along the way is not always what we actually want and what really can hold us back. So thanks so much, Grace, for, bringing us a bit deeper into it. I think it was very, very helpful. For me, it was very, very good. So thanks so much for taking your time. And guys, we put some links down there, what you said from like Ed Smith and his books. We try to find some, PDF versions. We put some links down in the description. And yeah, thanks guys for watching. Thanks Grace for being here. Bless you guys. See you at the next episode. Ciao, ciao.